Hello world, Patricia O'Connor and Frida Reba Darcy. Today on the Bonsai balcony, we have this is the other side of spring. 51 degrees. I haven't had to water anything today because we've been getting quite a bit of rain. We will be getting rain all day. This too is worth the price of admission, I suppose. All just a part of it. We're going to do a little check-in and see how everybody, and just kind of give you a feel for what it's like here on our rainy days. It's like I said, it's not even particularly warm. It's 50 degrees, 51 is what it says. Look at all of the vibrication coming up. See how this guy is just branching out for us. Every little cut we've made, that's just awesome. That's just awesome. That's our coastal oak. That's the base of our oak. I could go through there and remove a few dead leaves. That's okay. Everything's fine. That's a quick little look at Simply P. And Simply P is doing good. It's putting out candles and it's pushing out a lot of new growth. I'm really happy to see that. It got quite the year last year. It's on work restriction. We're just going to let it sit there and soak up the sunshine and try to take care of it and make sure nothing happens to it for now till this time next year. We'll reevaluate. You can just take 10, P. Last year, the reason why is because last year we cut this tree in half. It used to come out this way and then have another one of those, and was also facing up that. So we changed the angle. This was the roots that were down in the pot. So we made it into the shape of a small pig, and then we packed its roots in peat moss so that they wouldn't die, and then we kind of kept it watered so that it, and kept it moist and kept it misted so that it wouldn't go away on us without just watering it all off. And now we should have a fair amount of roots in there. At some point, as that begins to break down, it can, and we'll expose those roots more and more and more so that we'll have this woody, I would love to see that. And then down here in the bonsai pot, which is actually a training pot because of its size, it's going to town, just hopefully filling that sucker up full of roots. But up top here, we can see lots of new growth. Last year's needles do look a little beat. Also, no, that's okay. Something bumped it. Something bumped those needles. I don't know what's up with that. I'm going to dig in there with my skewers and make sure that's not a bug or something in there. That could be a nest right there. I might need to go in there and check that. Anyway, that's Simply P, our 17-year from seed. I just moved it out to the rail to let everybody get a lot of sun and stuff, and it seems to be responding really well to that. It likes it. I'm pretty happy with everything there is to be, that I could say about this guy. It's time to rotate. Here we go. That is our 17, no, I've had it a couple of years. I always do that. It's our 20-year from seed Japanese black pine. This is our ponderosa that we got last season. We haven't had this quite a year yet. Probably sometime this summer. I'll have to go back and look and see on the calendar and stuff. But we've had this for a while, about, almost a year. And I am really happy to see that it's putting out numerous candles. The growth on this tree is phenomenal. It's doing exactly what we would predict it would do if it were a healthy and thriving tree. So I say that because in this past year, it has been moved. It was collected a couple of years ago, been put in this training pot. So it's a Yamadori. Last year it moved from where it was collected in Deadwood, South Dakota, that same region where it was originally, born. down to here to a very, very different region. And because of that, I wanted to overwinter it someplace that would get colder so as not to freak the tree out too much and have it run itself into the ground. They can die of that. So last summer, I got the tree and I styled it. All of the branches that you see were up here. Just had some wire on them. It was wired by the collector. He didn't really style it as much as he just heavily wired it. I took his work and brought everything down, which is kind of all you can do with Yamadori because they tend to have really, really long, gangly branches because they've been out in the wild doing their own thing for a long time, and nobody's tried to prune them back or do anything that would keep work closer to the tree. So what we're doing is the first thing we have to do is kind of fold all of that long stuff out back within reason. And from a styling standpoint, that means it also crisscrosses back and forth in front of the tree if you're looking at the front, and I haven't decided exactly what the front is, but from the widest base standpoint, it probably wouldn't be this. It would probably be this side looking this way, and from that standpoint, all of those branches just crisscross in front of the trunk, which is a kind of a design no-no. There are several ways around that, and you can kind of see the green tape. Those are Japanese black pine grafts that we asked a bonsai master to apply to our tree before we picked it up from his garden where it was overwintering. And I'm not sure how many that is. It's between 4 and 6. I think 5, so that's why I say 4 and 6. That will eventually take over the tree is my hopes, and then we won't have to overwinter it anymore. And then the way that I will shorten the needles will be really different than the way that we would do it now as a ponderosa. A ponderosa is a single flush pine, and what we grafted it with is a Japanese black pine, which is a multi-flush pine. So that amount of fertilizer, all those little black specks, are on my biogold. I'm heavily feeding this tree, and the results of this heavily feeding and nicely watering is all of these. Let me see if I can get those. All of those little shoots that are just coming out all over the place. The tree is just busting out all over. Now this is all stuff that I'm gonna cut off, but it's certainly good to, but I'm not gonna cut it off right now. We're gonna cut it off. We will reduce the foliage, the ponderosa foliage by half in about 14 months, in about 13, 14 months. And that is if those grafts, which are the things under those green tapes, if those take and flourish like they're supposed to, if half of them or a couple of them do that, then in 14 months we will start reducing the ponderosa stock on here and allowing the Japanese black pine to have more and more of a dominant role. What I also really look forward to is a couple of things. One, I look forward to this tree getting fatter, which is another good reason to feed it. I want to see it get fat in that pot, eat, and then I really look forward to stalling this one. It has Japanese black pine on it, and I look forward to working this tree as a multi-flush species, which will have shorter needles, and I won't have to worry about it dying for being in the wrong climate. Its climate will be so nicely suited to where it lives now. And from what I've been told, the rootstock on ponderosa will thrive with Japanese black pine. As it's been described, it's like attaching a water hose to a fire hydrant. It doesn't blow out the water hose. The water hose is just amazed by the abundance of resources, and that's kind of how that relationship works. Next, I would say my cork bark, Japanese black pine. That guy. It's not a lot to say about it. It is in cruise mode also. We had an issue with it a couple of years ago. It's recovered from that, but I also in my learnings about what I did wrong or what I didn't do wrong or what I could have done better, which led to our issues. One of the things I also learned is that when it comes to a older cork bark pine, which is what this is, that I probably shouldn't do the candles every year. So I skipped last year because it was the same year that it was within the same time period that we had those hellacious issues. So that was just straight off the top of my head. Uh, no candle pruning for you. And then this year, I'm like, yeah, we don't have to do this every year. I'm very, very thankful to have a thriving green Japanese corkbark black pine. You just take it easy. That brings us, so in other words, I don't have a whole lot to talk about except I think it's a really good looking tree. Um, this is why we shoot 4K high def. Next to that is our Saturday night live project from a couple of weeks ago. All of the stars are in place. The tree trunk is still happy and in place. Our peat moss burger is still in place. Our spider is still down there giving us a thumbs up. It's a tiny little thumbs up. I doubt if you can see it. So they're still happy in there with their surroundings. And all the growth always looks like that. So that's kind of what's going on there. I expect nothing short of great things. Oh, also, I can still see moisture in here. I was worried about this drying up, but I can actually see water droplets in places. That's cool. All right, so that's got us on that end. From there, this is our ponderosas. Most of these ponderosas are, well, these aren't all ponderosas. That's 3 ponderosas and a little Japanese black pine. And you're looking a little shaggy. You need to be neatened up a little. I saw birds dancing in and out of here, and they're tiny, and I don't really discourage them. The crows are big enough to where if they go stomping on stuff, but they're also more respectful. They stay out on the rail and they eat those peanuts I leave for them. Those tiny birds will come and hang out next to the peanuts, but I think they're too big. But when I see that, I was wondering what was down here tromping around like an elephant. I don't really get any kind of damage from any of our local wildlife, and so I'm glad to see it. I'm glad to see the squirrels are fat and happy and not having to worry about being shot. And the same way with the birds and stuff. We just did a trim on this corkbark oak a couple of days ago, and it is one of several trims. Just while we were shooting this, look at the sky coming out, and it was one of several little cutbacks that that I'll probably do this spring, summer into fall. And I can already see shoots coming out that either we missed or that has happened. You can see it like in between the branches when I'm shooting look for the blue spot. You see that little sprig back there? There's a few more on the sunny side out there that are doing that. Well, I either missed those, which is okay, or they happened since we did our shoe. But yeah, we'll be doing that again in a couple of weeks, and then we'll be doing that again in a couple of weeks after that. And every time we do that, we'll get more bifurcations, kind of like what you just saw this guy doing, except that this guy is going full blast right now, and this guy is just getting started. The warmer it gets, the hotter it gets, the more prolific it gets with everything that it flushes out. And I think we're off to a really, really good start this year. And I'm also, I've doubled down my efforts in trying to select a better pot. I would like to get this guy in a nice pot next potting season. So yeah, that's got us there. More quick little look at ponderosas. They're all chalky in for their space here in the sunshine, and they're all getting it. And then they're all doing fine. There's not a lot to report. That's the one we did a couple of weeks ago. I love the look of that little tree. And here's another one in between the two oaks that we potted up, and it's just got its little its little space in the sunshine. And then I'm just going to pan back at all of our seedlings. I went through and pulled more weeds the other day. So those are last summer's. I'm going to get this furniture away. That's last summer's Japanese black pines. Boom, and some of them are already in pots. And this is this past winter's. You and I did this the end of winter and the first couple of weeks of spring. That's 26 last time I counted, little Japanese black pines, and I need to go through there and weed. We've got actual weeds in there that are bigger than the pine trees. I need to get in there and clean that up while I still can. But yeah, that was $17 worth of seeds, and I probably still have half of them left, and we lost a round to doves. I'll never not mention the fact that I tried to go, oh, doves are cute, but I found them to be an adorable pain in the butt and kind of dumb. That's okay. That's okay. You know, everybody doesn't have to be brilliant. Man. Mommy! Whenever I say that, I kind of think of a Rick and Morty bit where there's a simulation and the mailman in the back goes, "My man." But yeah, mommy. That is one thing that we did last year that I'm really happy about. I would, kind of want to say I'm proud of it, but that would be false pride because the tree did all the work here. I mean, it really did. We probably, as far as I know, we could have done as much wrong as right, but we wired that tree, we styled that tree, and we put it in one of Elizabeth Crutenden's little pots. I'm just thrilled with the way that these guys have come out. And here is an overview of those little guys. This guy has always looked yellow in the center. I have stopped watering it for the most part. I'm letting it to get super dry first. But you know how I say there's always that one. I'm looking at you. It gets the same treatment that all the rest of the trees get, and it's never liked it. I don't know. On the other hand, this is the guy that we just repotted. This is the guy that we just repotted in that pot, and I am really happy with our new little cascade. Yeah, I'm really happy with this little tree, and I need to feed it. It doesn't have the bio gold that it needs there. Also, I could put this here, let it have its own spot. Okay, bio gold for you. Our wisterias, they're in there, they're happy. I need to go back through and prune these back. If I let all of this stuff, the new growth, grow out real long, then next year's blooms, buds, will form on that before this season is over, and it'll form way out there on those ends. And when I do cut them off, I'll be cutting off all the blooms, all of next year's blooms. I suspect I may have done that before. So I should probably go back at some point sometime this weekend maybe, and cut that back to where you can see that there's a wisteria in there, and that could be a pile of wisteria. Patricia could be bulling this, and that could just be a big pile of wisteria limbs. Yeah, probably cleaning that back has a very one, the wisteria wants to be a vine, so all of that energy trying to go up is taking energy from the bottom, and 2, you can't see the tree, and 3, like I mentioned before, it will make next year's blooms and runners off of this year's buds, and if we allow all those new buds form on parts that we need to cut off, then there goes any chance at blooming. Our Dawn Redwood has finally made a little recap. Look at all the growth on that. I was really starting to get pretty grumpy with this tree. Yeah. It's gonna take a lot of carving to try to make that stuff into something, but this is step 1 towards trying to get the tree to stabilize into something I can work with. And Yeah, I haven't given up on it. No, I'm not going to give up on it. But whenever I was, like I said this last time, I was watching a lecture, and at the end of the lecture, somebody asked a question that led to a conversation where the lecturer was speaking of someone else who said, if you're going to follow my teachings, go out to your garden, take your worst tree, and get rid of it. And this was the first thing I thought of. And the more the person tried to explain themselves for saying something so horrible, the more it made sense. Because I've got a couple of years invested. Now I haven't done squat. You know, it's not like a couple of years invested that I've been sitting here doing anything to this tree every day. But it does. It gets as much water as the other trees do. It's got as much wiring as any of my cypress trees have gotten. And everything I've done to this tree has either been wrong or it has responded adversely to. Excuse me. So I could see a certain amount of sense to that. I could elevate the looks of my entire garden probably by taking that dawn redwood out. But that's not how we roll. I wouldn't I wouldn't do that to living things. It's just kind of the way I'm cut. But it's not only that, it's not enough to continue. You have to try to actively continue. You know, you have to try to actively better the material and do things actively towards bringing it good general health. And that's what we're doing. We make sure we get it weeded, we make sure we get it fed, we make sure we don't miss our waters. Even the times when I think it's a dead stick, I still water it. And that's what leads to this spring, it flushing out and going, wow, you were like 4 or 5 days for going out to the dumpster. I thought for sure you were dead by now. But nope, we're not out of our misery yet. We're gonna take another round on the dawn redwood and see if we can't make a tree out of this. You know, and we should be able to. This thing is a very, very, very close cousin to these things, which I've had pretty good luck with. I would say my bald cypress trees or my swamp cypress trees, my red cypress trees, have been a swimming success so far. They are pre-bonsai, but I've really enjoyed growing these trees. They haven't been something that I've worried about as much as some of my pines have made me worried or my oaks have made me worried. They haven't gotten the sniffles or had they haven't had anything that has stripped them bare the way my dawn redwood has. They just stroke right along. You water them. I just watered them for the first year without feeding them, and they didn't even care. They cared not. And then after that, I started feeding them more, and they picked up and started growing faster. That was on me. We just lost time and not much else. Time's precious. I'm not making light of losing time. But I have really enjoyed bald cypress. I would say that to a lot of people, this would be a good tree to start with. If you can keep it watered, you can have a bald cypress. If you can't keep it watered, don't mess with bonsai. If you can't keep these trees watered, you still have an option of putting the trees in, like putting that pot partially submerged, right, in a tray of water. And then, as I say, you can blow town for a couple of weeks. Don't let the roots dry out. If the roots don't dry out, you'll have your bald cypress bonsai. They can grow as far up north. I've heard of them in Michigan. Hell, I think Nigel in Canada has a bald cypress, I believe. They grow really, really well. They're ancient trees. They are like predate dinosaurs. They predate insects. Part of our coal reserves in the world are tree species that no longer exist, but of the trees that do exist that make up those coal reserves, the bald cypress and the dawn redwood make up a huge chunk of that, and they find their leaf patterns imprinted in coal deposits that they dig up all the time. So yeah, these guys predate a time of they predate dinosaurs, they predate insects, they predate a lot of other. When these guys started, I think Earth was basically mostly water, mostly shallower everywhere, but some deep places maybe, but it would have been the kind of place where life could get hold in little shallows. And then as all those fronds fall, um, those start to make land. If you go out to the marsh and you're walking along in the bog, you're walking along on miles deep of leaf droppings, basically. That, and the dust settles through the air and stuff, and it just gets trapped in those leaf, and that's last year's leaf fall is what you're standing on. The 10 years leaf fall is 3 feet below you, and so forth and so forth. But before insects, trees were like that too. They just littered the ground and didn't rot because there was nothing to break them down. They didn't even have, there was a time when there wasn't even the lichens and stuff that break them down now. So they just laid there until they got covered up with dust or dirt or volcanic ash or whatever. Well, that's what we have in coal deposits. But these are some of our original coal deposit guys. They were here early on. I always find that a fascinating story. Yeah. So that's got us on our ponderosas. The only thing left that I kind of skipped out on was our Kodaheim maple forest. I've already weeded this off camera 2 more times since I brought this in and did a proper weeding a couple of days ago. But 2 things. One, that didn't last near long enough. You can see I've got weeds to go in and get again. And 2, Gilligan's Island is starting to bud out again. We're starting to see at least some leafage on almost everybody. Not quite everybody, but I'm hopeful. I don't think we should have anything happen last year that would lead to any losses. And with that, I think with that, that's got us on our look for the balcony today. That's kind of how things are looking on this. What is it? 4th of May, Saturday, on the Bonsai balcony. Like and subscribe if you guys haven't already. Our next drop will be tonight. Frida and I will probably clean up the place and shoot a live video called Saturday Night Live Bonsai, which I've been really enjoying doing. Yeah, but the one hitch is California time. I get started about 8 o'clock is when it gets dark here, which is late in a lot of other places. But we are probably will go back to an earlier schedule as it gets darker sooner. It's not Saturday Night Live when it's sundown. So, yeah. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, and Frida appreciates you, and enjoy this day.